All right, I'm going to call us to order now for this press conference. I thank you all for your flexibility this evening. My last position before I had to resign to run for Congress was working as a flight attendant. And one of the things you learn working as a flight attendant is that you really need to be flexible. Things change all the time. So I'm okay with rolling with that. I think we did lose some people due to the change. But like I said, we're going to be reposting this on my Facebook page, and I appreciate your patience with me this evening. So the first thing I would like to do is just to recite the Pledge of Allegiance together with you. So I invite you to stand if you're able, and let's say the pledge together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. After the shooting of Renee Nicole Good, I made the decision to dedicate the rest of my campaign to her memory and to her family and to action on her behalf. So I more than just in name, I really want my campaign to lead to action that is meaningful, especially in regards to the constitutional violations that have been happening with ICE activities in our state. Not just our district, but of course in the metro area and across the state. So instead of a moment of silence today, I would actually like to engage you in a chant. This is something I'm hoping to use at the Winter Parade. If you want to join me there at the Winter Parade next week on Saturday evening. So this chant is, say her name, and then Renee, Renee, Renee. But you have to say it with gusto. Are you ready? Here we go. Say her name, Renee, Renee, Renee. Say her name, Renee, Renee, Renee. One more time. Say her name, Renee, Renee, Renee. We cannot forget the name of Renee Nicole Good. And at the end of the debate that we had last weekend, or I guess the weekend before, actually, at the closing comments that I had, I said, let's keep her name on our lips and in our hearts as we go into the voting booth, and we can say, this vote is for Renee. Thank you. Now, as I was speaking with people recently, this issue of addressing the constitutional violations that have been happening with ICE, that's become my primary focus. And so I was speaking with a constituent, and she reminded me that I need to listen to be sure that I'm hearing what people have to say. So I would like to take a few minutes for that now. But before I do, again, just thank you for being here. Do we have any other candidates present in the room?
Yes, we do.
Charlie.
Charlie Hobbs running for...
Here. Let me come on. Let me give you a microphone.
Well, thanks, Anson. I'm Charlie Hobbs, and I'm running for Ward 1, St. Cloud City Council Ward 1 this year in 2026 to provide leadership, new leadership for the first time in 20 years for Ward 1, which is the heart of St. Cloud, as I call it, the heart of Central St. Cloud, as I call it. We're standing right in it now, downtown west of the Mississippi in the Lake George neighborhood and down Clearwater Road and Washington Avenue and a bunch more. It's where we have some of our deepest pockets of poverty in a city where we have a 20% poverty rate approximately. And I'm concerned, as I'm sure we all are, about issues of housing, including rent reform. We have 51% of our households now that are renters here in the city of St. Cloud. I'm concerned about food. I'm concerned about safety now, especially in this era, as you mentioned, Anson, of illegal, unconstitutional, warrantless home invasions, a moral abomination. And of course, I'm concerned about downtown for all of us. That's an important part of Ward 1. And as much as people may want to use issues of child care as political talking points and ways of scapegoating people. The reality is we need good, affordable childcare in St. Cloud, and that's underscored by the recent closing, thank you, of the Child Care Center at St. Cloud State. But I know this is your press conference, Anson. Thank you.
That's okay, Charlie. I know what it's like once you get up on your soapbox. You start gaining momentum, so you're welcome. But thank you for your work, because what was the name of your organization that you're working with for feeding children?
I'm on the board of directors of FACT, Feeding Area Children Together.
Thank you for your important work in that regard. All right, is there anything else that anyone else would like to mention? You don't have to be a VIP to speak. I mean, this is a grassroots organization. Is there anyone else here who has some thoughts they'd like to share on what's been happening recently? Felicia, I know I see a thought behind your eyes. Would you like to say something? No, that's okay. All right, very good. Adam?
I would like to say something that what I have seen is a racist action that's targeting my black and brown neighbors. People are being kidnapped off the street that are U.S. citizens. My wife is a family therapist and has to deal with little children who have just seen their U.S. citizen cousin kidnapped and flown down to El Paso, Texas. This is unconscionable, and it's up to us to stand up and stay strong and be the leaders.
Amen.
To make a difference for our black and brown brothers. And I say that as a white person. So that's my challenge to white people. It's time to wake up.
Yes.
Exactly. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
Very good. Yes, go
I
ahead.
have a follow-up.
Yes.
I'd like to make a follow-up comment. According to Facebook, I don't believe everything they say, but I did see that the city council had a motion a couple of weeks ago saying they were supporting the police in St. Cloud and ICE. And I think the motion passed. We had two women, the woman that was at large, and the Hutta, if any of you know her, and then the other one I think was Larson, that voted against that, and I'm sure it was because of the ICE part of it. It's really scary to me to think that four people, at least four, voted to support ICE.
Was there any technical action? I mean, was that enforceable action regarding that motion?
No, it was just that they were supporting them. And see, I'm out there, it just was that they were supporting them. I'm out there freezing my butt off, saying that ICE is, unconstitutional. It's a disgrace to our country. And here we have that many men, I'm sorry to say, on the council that voted that it's just fine. Who cares?
Okay.
I can provide
Thank you for
some
that.
clarification.
Oh, here, Charlie. Okay. Oh, by the way, what was your name?
Claire.
Claire. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Claire. What I didn't mention earlier is I'm also on the City of St. Cloud Planning Commission. Our Mayor Anderson appointed me to Planning Commission about 1 year ago now. At this past City Council meeting, in addition to regular business, I was there, and there were indeed two discussion items proposed and agreed upon, voted on to be included under new business at this upcoming meeting. No resolutions concerning the crisis that we're in now with this ICE invasion and occupation were passed. Resolutions could be passed at this upcoming meeting Monday evening, 6 p.m. at City Hall. Be aware, they're going to have to get through, I think, some business concerning taxation about this proposed YMCA water park first. But no actual resolutions have actually been put forward in any kind of concrete form nor passed. it is, of course, important that as many people show up to this council meeting Monday night. But in terms of the two items that were passed as discussion items, which could end up being resolutions voted on, yes, there is the one kind of incoherent and very problematic put together by Councilperson Brodeen, and there's also a discussion item that could be a resolution voted on, put forward, and I know in a spirit of compassion and in a spirit of inclusivity, by Councilperson Dr. Ibrahim. So that's the clarification I just wanted to be sure to
Thank you.
provide.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. I'll need to close off comments now just so we can get to my part. I'm sure we could take the entire rest of our time just talking about this. But that's very important information, and it will play into action that I'm hoping to take beyond this time. I mean, the next steps from here forward. So what I'd like to do now is talk about my timeline. First, how I became engaged in running for Congress, and then what happened after I learned of the death of Renee Nicole Good. To begin with, it sounds like I'm not the only one here who's tired of being victimized by the current presidential administration. Is that right? That's right. So in my story, I was working as a flight attendant at the start of last year. It was my goal to become an airline transport pilot. I am a student pilot, and I was making preparations to apply for a pilot training program. But at the end of January, after the current president came to power, there was an accident in D.C. where a Black Hawk helicopter flew into a commuter jet. And when the president had held his press conference after that event, he started out okay with condolences to the families of the victims. But then he blamed the incident on diversity, equity, and inclusion. For me, as a person who has survived a fatal plane crash, that was completely inappropriate. And in my eyes, he was tainting the results of the investigation because he, as a person of authority, was demanding certain results from their investigation. It was implicit in his comment. And beyond that, his tariffs affected our supplies on our flights. I was working for a global airline, and we had to make changes to what we provide on the flights. Now that might not be so much of a safety issue, but beyond that, I was concerned about maintenance people having their parts so they could, because a lot of those parts are made overseas and then shipped here to the U.S. And under normal conditions, those maintenance people have a tight schedule and lots of stress to begin with. And I thought it was an unnecessary risk being added to their work to keep us safe by the president having these wild tariffs being imposed on other countries, just because he wanted to create leverage. In addition to that, the president's policies were affecting the safety of the air traffic controllers. For instance, in Newark, they had blackouts where they lost contact with aircraft for 30 seconds, 90 seconds at a time. And those airports were airports I was flying in and out of quite frequently. And beyond that, the president's geopolitical stance was creating more tension in our world so that we were at more risk of people wanting to target airlines in America. And it was just too much unnecessary risk, and I decided I needed to run. So I began the process, and I attended the forums that we held over the summer and last fall. We had a meet and greet in Monticello, and then we had a debate just a couple weeks ago. And it was before that debate, the week before, the day Renee Nicole Good was shot, I was in a Zoom call. It was a daily Zoom call where we talk about our priorities as DFLers. And our chair, Richard Karlbaum, mentioned that a constitutional observer had been shot. I was shocked to hear that, and I devoted the next 48 hours to investigating the facts that were publicly available. In that investigation, I was shocked by the unprofessionalism that I witnessed in the video of her shooting. An officer putting himself in the way of a vehicle, the conflicting orders that were given to the driver, and the continued shooting after she was initially shot and past the officer, and the fact that no one rendered her aid. The officer went to her vehicle, but he did not render aid. And I took all of this in, and then I heard our governor's press conference that evening, Governor Walz, and I appreciated his comments. However, I didn't think that his comments went far enough. And essentially, I thought he was telling us to keep our heads low until this storm would pass. I understand his rationale because I understand our president was looking for any excuse to send troops in to disrupt our community. And I suppose to possibly disrupt our election, or at least suppress those who would turn out for our caucuses and the election this fall. I was not satisfied with that. I thought we needed more, because it was obvious that so many of us, even citizens, as Charlie stated, even citizens were being targeted by ICE through racial profiling. And we needed protection from this abuse. And so I sent a communication to the governor, and the subject of the communication was taking a stronger stance to protect Minnesotans from ICE actions that violate constitutional rights. I won't share the entire document with you, but this is what I communicated to the governor. I said, "Dear Governor Walz, my name is Anson Amberson. I live in the St. Cloud area, and I am one of 2 candidates seeking the DFL endorsement to run against Tom Emmer in CD6. This is my formal request to you to take a stronger stance to protect Minnesotans from ICE actions that are violating our most general constitutional rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Especially after the ICE killing of Renee Nicole Good, it is very apparent that the current policies guiding ICE actions are the result of the sadistic abuse of power, the sadistic abuse of power promulgated directly by the current presidential administration. And we are counting on you to stop this sadistic abuse of power that is threatening the peaceful existence for all Minnesotans, not just the Somalis, Latin Americans, or other minority ethnic groups. Although I am certain that the GOP will face a reckoning at the ballot box this November, we cannot wait until November 2026 or January 2027 for a reprieve from the hazards of unconstitutional ICE actions. Too many lives may be lost if we just put our heads down and wait for the storm to pass. I'm not opposed to legal immigration proceedings that guarantee protections of constitutional rights, even including deportation. But ICE agents have crossed a red line this week, and they must not be permitted to continue past it. I am not an attorney, but I propose the following potential actions for your consideration to develop an effective protective plan to prevent ICE from violating our constitutional rights." And so from there, I listed 6 suggestions. And I won't read them all because I don't know whether or not the governor is still considering some of these actions. But at the end of it, I said these things. I am certain that there are other protective actions that you might consider and pursue, but the point is this. Do something that will actually protect Minnesotans instead of simply playing nice in the face of the presidential administration's sadistic abuses of power. I believe that there must be other legal actions that exist for you and other governors to consider and implement to protect their constituents. Thank you for taking the time to consider my thoughts on this matter. I will be announcing my stance on this issue and my formal request to you regarding it. There were a few other things I did mention, but that is the majority of what I had to say to the governor. And so that was on Wednesday evening when I sent out that message. I did follow up that evening as well with the Attorney General's office, and I asked them to follow up with the governor regarding my communication. I also sent copies of that to our senators, Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith. And I also sent it to Eric Putnam and Dan Wolgamott, as well as our DFL chair. I felt that this issue is too important for us to just let it slide. Too many people could be hurt. I ended up pulling my hair out waiting for a response. I never got a direct acknowledgement after that communication, but on that following Monday, I heard the announcement from Attorney General Keith Ellison that they were going to be filing suit against Kristi Noem and the Department of Homeland Security. And that brought so much relief to me that I cried. I was just about to take some things to my daughter after school for her athletics, but I had to stop. I had to listen to the press conference because it meant that much to me. In addition to communicating with the governor, I did make contact with a pastor in the neighborhood. It's a Powderhorn Park neighborhood. It took me a second to remember the name. But Kenny Callahan, Pastor Kenny Callahan is the senior pastor of the All God's Children Metropolitan Community Church. It's a long name. But I did talk with him because I had seen his interview with Katie Tur. And let me get a copy of his statement that he shared with me. This is the statement that I received from Pastor Kenny Callahan of All God's Children Metropolitan Community Church in the Powderhorn Park neighborhood of Minneapolis regarding the unconstitutional and racist intimidation tactics by federal ICE agents witnessed by Pastor Kenny. You can also search YouTube for his interview with Katie Tur. This is the quote that he gave me. I did make some corrections to the spelling. As I arrived at church this morning, I saw and heard a lot of activity 3 blocks from All God's Children MCC. It was ICE performing an immigration raid. By the time I parked the car, picked up my whistle, and walked to Portland Avenue, ICE and the police were everywhere. Instantly, I joined the protest, demanding that they leave Minneapolis and chanting, "Shame on you, our streets, not yours." It was astounding to be part of the crowd of multi-generations, people of many ethnic backgrounds and genders. Before long, there was a wave of energy and the news that a female observer was shot and killed by ICE. Protesters and observers went mad and responded in nonviolent ways, chanting louder, blowing whistles stronger, and car horns blaring. I didn't see them take anyone into ICE custody, but it was also clear that the raid was also intended to scare and intimidate people. Protesters started chanting, "I am not afraid," over and over again. It was crazy. Before I knew it, an officer approached me, asked me a question, handcuffed me, and put me into a black SUV. The officer was masked and didn't have a name badge. 3 different times he came back to the car asking if I was afraid yet, to which I responded, I usually don't cuss, but I'll say it, "Hell no!" They asked for my identification and cell phone, to which I responded, "Am I being arrested?" To which they slammed the car door. The last time they came to the car, they opened the door and asked if I was afraid yet. I said, absolutely not. Then they said it. Well, you're white, and it wouldn't be any fun. And told me to get out of the car. If I hadn't seen and heard it, if I hadn't seen and heard enough, I couldn't believe my ears. This so-called ICE immigration crackdown is really about systemic racism and intimidation fueled by power and control. It's disgusting and wrong. I am not and will not be intimidated by these spineless, cowardly, masked ICE agents. I will and encourage you to do whatever's possible to stand for the rights of immigrants and God's justice. All people have the right to be treated with love and kindness, just the way they are. The protesters and observers today helped to fuel my soul with a new and different kind of social justice advocacy. Look out, Kristi Noem, ICE and the White House. We know what you all are up to, and we're not having it because it's ugly. These are the words of Pastor Kenny Callahan. Because we are short on time, I will have to wrap up quickly. But my point to you is this. I took action. I took the initiative, and I took action. Beyond making contact with Pastor Kenny, I went to his congregation. I spent time with his congregation. The congregation there at All God's Children, MCC, is an LGBTQ community. And although I am straight, they welcomed everyone there, no matter your color, your orientation, your identity, whatever you have done in the past. They made a point of saying that. They made me very welcome there. And when Pastor Kenny announced my presence and announced that I was going to be running against Tom Emmer, the whole congregation, even though they're outside of our congressional district, the whole congregation erupted with applause. And I thanked Pastor Kenny for his bravery. I had many conversations with people afterward, and it is very clear that they are at ground zero and they want someone to stand up for them. And that's one reason why I'm still willing to run. And that is why I want to do more to effect change. Just last weekend, I returned from a funeral in Tennessee. I had to rent a car to drive down, and I spent a day on that Friday, and then I drove back. A marathon 15-hour drive both ways. On the way down, I had to do some campaign Zoom calls. I had to pull over on the side of the road. One time I had to sit for about an hour so that I could avoid having an accident. But it was well worth the communication. I was talking with people about what I'm trying to do with my campaign to promote change in response to ICE. And people were ready to hear it. But also, as I met people along the way, as I met the people serving at counters, and they heard I was running for office, instantly you could see the hope in their eyes that someone could help them so they would not feel afraid leaving their homes. They would say, I have my passport with me today because I'm afraid that somebody is going to pull me over and ask me for it. And the way ICE is acting, even though people declare that they're citizens, they're not listening, and they're still detaining them. So I want to answer their call. I want to help them. And I need to stay engaged in this conversation. I've been thinking about what to do, especially on the drive back from Tennessee, from that funeral there. I had a lot of time to consider what is the best thing to do. I was hoping we would have time enough to read through the Declaration of Independence here, because I think this document helps us understand what's happening. Agents of the federal government are oppressing us much the same way that colonists were oppressed prior to the Revolution. And eventually, people started getting shot over the protest of the Stamp Act. And the environment that's happening right now makes me think that these actions constitute tyranny. And we need to stand up. But should we revolt? No, we shouldn't do that. We would be labeled as terrorists, and we would be taken out quickly. We need to seek all legal remedies possible. And especially with the Martin Luther King Day remembrance last Monday, I was trying to think how much nonviolent action is going to be enough to respond to these things. For me, I am in general a pacifist. But when people are being killed and lives are being disrupted, I feel like we need more action. And I've been wondering whether or not law enforcement can step in so that we as private citizens are not putting our lives on the line every time we witness an immigration action by ICE. Right now, there are laws that prevent local law enforcement from arresting ICE agents when they violate our constitutional rights. However, I'm hoping that through continued dialogue with mayors, local law enforcement, and the governor's office, that the governor and the attorney general may be able to provide us a legal pathway for law enforcement to begin stepping in. There's no guarantee that that will happen, but that is one of my next steps that I'm going to be pursuing. Just recently, it was last night, in fact, I participated in another Zoom call focused on affordability. It was supposed to be an in-person event at Monticello, but because of the weather, they went to Zoom. And Attorney General Keith Ellison was part of that call. And there was another expert. Her name was Michelle Garnett McKenzie. And I posted questions regarding my thoughts about future actions against ICE. And they both addressed them. And Attorney General Keith Ellison mentioned that it is important for us to continue to keep up the good fight, to continue recording and documenting. All of this documenting we are doing is going to be used for prosecutions. These agents and their superiors will be held to account if I have anything to do with this. And I will need your support to do that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So there are actions we can do. We can seek to submit our evidence to the ACLU.
Library will be closing in 30 minutes. If you are applying for a library card, please come to the checkout desk at this time. Thank you for using Great River Regional Library Services.
Thank you to the voice of God. But I'm going to try to wrap up here in just a few minutes. But I brought up the issue in that Zoom call of whether or not we will have a class action lawsuit brought against the government. And that will be one of the actions that will be taken, as far as I can tell. And so we will need people to be brave enough to stand up and report their interactions with ICE and the way their constitutional rights have been violated. So just to recap, from here, I do want to talk with local mayors and law enforcement across the district and even in the metro area. I want to continue speaking with the governor and the attorney general. I want to continue communicating with our senators and other elected officials in the state. But in my taking this action, I'm most certain that I'm going to become a target at some point. And I won't be able to do this all by myself. I will need you to participate with me. So these are the things you can do to help me. One, you can walk with me in the winter parade next weekend on that Saturday evening. You can join my campaign committee. Up until this point, I've been doing a lot of large lifting for my campaign by myself. My campaign will not survive unless you feel this issue is important enough to take action. If you won't take action now, when will you take action? We all need to make time in our lives to bring these ICE injustices to an end. Also, I ask you for your contributions. My original projection for this campaign was needing to raise $4 million by the general election. If I'm going to be taking a stand and possibly coordinating with all of the different organizations that are training people to resist and organizing them to make a more impressive appearance during ICE actions, a more coordinated, well-disciplined appearance during ICE actions, I will need to increase that projection. It could increase to millions more beyond $4 million. My first ask of you is to help me raise $10,000 for this cause. If I can do well with those $10,000, I ask you to help me raise $100,000. If I can do well with your trust with $100,000, I ask you to help me raise the first $1 million. How many people here are committed to doing so? Anyone? Yes, all right, good. I appreciate that. At the table here, please take some additional information. I have contribution forms that you can take and mail back with your check. Right now, my campaign is only taking checks and cash. Once I get going, I will try to set up a digital means of contributing to my campaign. However, a lot of those means tend to take a big cut of the donation. So I really want to avoid giving away too much of your money to these other organizations. One last thing I'd like to end with, and then hopefully they'll let me get away with taking a couple questions. But if you're going to march with me in the parade next Saturday, a week from this Saturday, tomorrow, I have a little chant that I hope you will sing with me during the route. It goes something like this. Anson Amberson. Oh, wait. Rachel, I need your help. You're the music therapist. Rachel, come on over. There we go. Anson Amberson for Congress. Anson Amberson for Congress with liberty and justice for all. Anson Amberson for Congress. Anson Amberson for Congress. Anson Amberson for Congress with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, so if somebody has a question, would you like to raise your hand? Yes, Charlie. Okay.
Thanks, Anson. You mentioned communication with the governor.
Yep, keep that up close to your mouth.
You
Yes.
mentioned communication with the governor.
Yes.
Do you support, and have you asked, and if you haven't, shall you be asking the governor to issue a moratorium on evictions insofar and for as long as ICE is in these parts? That is within his power, and I say that again with reference to the fact that 51% of St. Cloud households are renters. My second question is, in the event that Doug Chapin gets the DFL endorsement, in that event, how will you support him to defeat Tom Emmer? Thank you. Those are my two questions.
Yes, thank you for mentioning the possible moratorium on evictions during the ICE occupation. That is a very relevant comment, and I will be adding that to my communication with the governor. All I can do is submit an online communication, and it will be up to him to follow up. I will also reach out again to Attorney General Keith Ellison's office, making that a formal request. Thank you for adding that to that. That's very important. That's one reason why I count on a team for success, and why I say I cannot do this campaign alone. Charlie, I hope you'll stick with me and help guide me. Now, regarding the endorsement, I have stated a long time ago that if I do not win the endorsement for this race for Congress, I will support the endorsed candidate. The only thing that could make me change my mind would have to be something very catastrophic. But I do not want to split the DFL vote. I think it's very important for us to support whoever will replace Tom Emmer. And I am certain that Tom Emmer will not have a seat after this election this fall. So thank you, Charlie. One more question. Is there one more question somebody would like to ask? Michael, you're deep in thought.
Just listening.
Just listening. Well, that's important too. And I hope your listening leads you to action. Thank you so much. This is my first press conference ever. I had a whole bunch of other fireworks and pyrotechnics I was hoping to light off, but I guess they don't allow that here in the library. So
Thank you for the song.
Oh, yes, very good. Yes, go ahead. Tell me your name, please.
Jordan,
Jordan.
are you going to be going out at all and hitting the streets with protesters? When do you plan on doing that?
Yes, I did attend some protests earlier on, especially with the Closing Our Clinics rallies and the No Kings rally, and also the Americans for Democracy rally over by Barnes & Noble. I had tried to go to the Chaska protests for the Emmer Do Better protests, but I ended up missing those. So instead, I would go and I did door knocking in those areas, and that's where I got some of my initial contributions. And by the way, I need to thank Dale Field over here sitting at the table. Dale Field is a friend of mine with the Experimental Aircraft Association out at the St. Cloud Airport, and he believes in me. He wants me to get my act together and do really well, and he was the first person to donate to my campaign. So let's give it up for Dale Field. Thank you, Dale. He also had run for office here in the state. So, Jordan, was there anything else you'd like to know about that?
Nope, I'm just going to read your paperwork and then decide.
Very good. I do have an email in my brochure. You can reach out to me anytime. I am more than happy to respond to any of your comments. I also have a new Facebook page. You can comment there if you like as well. I'll be trying to post this video that Colin has been recording for me there. And my campaign fund is still relatively new. I tried opening my campaign fund during the government shutdown, and I was unable to do so until the government started up again. So finally, at the end of December, I was able to get my campaign fund going. So thank you so much for being here today, and let's make a difference. Let's do this for Renee. Say her name. Renee, Renee, Renee. Say her name. Renee, Renee, Renee. Say her name. Renee, Renee, Renee. Thank you very much. Have a very good evening. Stay warm and stay safe.